Now, I think this might be the most ridiculous one. This is how to get from the Starbucks that's close to my mom's house to my mom's house. Now, it's a 5 minute drive, or a 57-minute walk, or an 18-minute bike ride. And you might be
What?
looking at this
How?
and being like, oh, well, an 18-minute bike ride, that's not so bad.
So this American couple has been living in the Netherlands for a few years now, and after a while they visited the USA again. And of course, there are some differences that they are going to talk about in this video. In the description here, you can see 8 differences in total. And yeah, let's talk about these, let's talk them through and deep dive into these differences.
We just returned from our first trip back to the United States since moving to the Netherlands, and we're going to tell you about this little thing called reverse culture shock. Reverse culture shock
Okay.
is defined as readjusting to previously familiar surroundings, disorientation, irritability, restlessness, depression. Yep, you name it, we got it, and we're here to talk about it. Oh, and we're ready to answer the probably obvious question. Are we ready to move back to the US now?
Let's see, let's find out.
We're Michelle and Alex. In the summer of
Hmm.
2022, we packed up our lives and moved ourselves and our two cats to the
Aw,
Netherlands. And since then, we've been exploring all of the things the Netherlands has to offer, from its beautiful cities to its amazing food. And about a week
you know how I feel about the food, right? I don't think it's all that amazing, but I mean, it's okay.
ago, we participated in an annual tradition here in the Netherlands, the New Year's Dive or New Year's Douw.
The pronunciation is not that great, to be honest, so I will add here it's Nieuwjaarsdag. Like the K at the end is very important to pronunciate properly. But indeed, yeah, it's a New Year's dive, and we have that here at the Belgian coast as well. It's like a tradition, as they mentioned. Yeah, for sure.
Completely naked. Goedemorgen and welcome back. Today, we're
Yeah, goedemorgen is good morning, if you didn't know.
talking about a recent trip back to the US, specifically the things that surprised us after not being there for about 2 years.
Number 8. Let's start with the one that might be obvious. Grocery stores in the United States are massive. Say nothing of
They probably
Costco or
are.
other warehouse club type stores, which we didn't really use when we lived in the United States, and we certainly didn't visit on this most recent trip. But grocery stores in the United States are massive, with a huge selection and a lot of parking. For
Ooh,
context, here's the cereal aisle. Let's say I'm looking for Cinnamon Toast Crunch, which is an incredible cereal, by the way. Well, first, I need to find it in this massive two-sided aisle. Okay, here
Jesus.
it is, in 3 sizes: regular, large, and giant size.
Okay.
There are also a few other variations of the classic Cinnamon Toast Crunch: rolls, Tres Leches Toast Crunch, and minis. Oh, look, there's another option: Cinnamon Toast Crunch in a bag.
Jesus,
Now,
that's a
here's a
lot.
cereal aisle in the Netherlands.
If you could call it that.
Ooh.
This might not be a great comparison since I don't think cereal is as popular here, so let's maybe compare the cheese selection.
Well, it's well, we do eat cereals, but to have something else to eat as breakfast, to have a little bit of options. But yeah, I guess not as popular as it is in the States. And I think the selection we have like a couple of dozen of options in most supermarkets. So I guess that's fine. You know, if you have like an aisle or two aisles full of cereals to choose from, man, it would give me choice stress. That's for sure.
Here's the cheese section in the Netherlands. There's not a ton of variety here. For that, you'll typically need to go to a cheese shop.
Well, I mean, I guess it's okay, right? You have like slices of cheese. You have these big blocks of cheese, like thick blocks that you can cut up into smaller pieces and eat with, as a snack like this, or with some mustard or something on the side. And then you have these where the camera is above and below. You can see there is like cream cheeses. Yeah, so I guess there's enough choice, and then somewhere else in the supermarket will also be another selection of cheeses like Camembert and Brie, like French cheeses, or maybe Italian, or like mozzarella, and the Spanish cheeses, Manchego, which is sheep cheese, which is not easy to say. So there is quite some selections of cheeses available. Even if you want to do like a cheese evening with wine, a cheese and wine tasting evening, it's fine. And then, yeah, if you want more specialized cheeses, then of course you would go to a cheese shop. Yeah, that's for sure.
Here's the cheese section in the US.
Damn.
Oh, and here's the specialty cheese section that's also in most American grocery stores.
We walked into the grocery store
It's not too bad.
and it was overwhelming.
Yeah,
Mm.
getting just into the parking lot was crazy too.
Yeah. Number 7. The grocery stores in the US were a lot pricier than we remembered. First, you might already know that the price that you see on the tag at the store in the United States isn't necessarily the price you pay on checking out, unlike here in the Netherlands, where the price that you pay is the price on the tag with VAT or tax included.
Tax included,
But
yeah.
like all taxes in the US, everything is dependent on the state that you're in, or even in some cases, the city or the county. There are 13
Oh.
states that tax grocery items, but thankfully Ohio is not one of them. So when you buy a cucumber, at least the tag is what you'll actually end up paying. But still, you can see on this receipt, there are some things that are taxed, and it isn't necessarily clear if it's taxed or not until after you check out. Things like aluminum foil or cat food. There is still a major difference in the prices of items in the grocery store in the US versus the Netherlands. Let's start with comparing a simple cucumber. Here's
Okay.
how a cucumber's tagged in the US, and here's how it's priced here at our local Albert Heijn. Now, bread is a bit interesting. As y'all might know, bread in the United States tends to be filled with preservatives, so it typically
It's not like the fresh bread we have here in Belgium or in the Netherlands. It's not the same, right?
looks like this. And this loaf of bread costs $3.49. But if
Jesus.
you look at the bread in the bakery section at the grocery store, it looks like this, and it costs $4.49. But here's a full loaf of bread at our local Albert Heijn. It's $1.99.
Yeah.
And finally,
Like 3.50 or 3.99 is what we pay here for like a fresh bread from the bakery, or not from the supermarket. So that's insane, those prices, you know.
meat replacement products like this fake chicken. Here's a brand that's available in the US, and here's a somewhat comparable house brand in the Netherlands.
One of the things that I thought was really interesting is that in the United States, none of the meat replacement products are house brand or grocery store
Oh.
brand. And that's really common here in the Netherlands. Like Jumbo and Albert Heijn all have their own house brand for meat replacements.
Yeah, for other products as well. And these supermarkets in the Netherlands, Albert Heijn and Jumbo, they've been spreading in Belgium as well. For sure, like Albert Heijn, they have been in Belgium for like, I don't know, 10 years or so, and they have like dozens of stores now in Belgium. And Jumbo is now in Belgium as well for the last few years or so, and they have some stores here as well. So, and they're quite cheap compared to other stores in Belgium. And they're maybe not the cheapest, but and they have of course like another variety of products that are typically Dutch that we don't have as much here in Belgium. So it's nice to have them here as well.
And we were shopping at Kroger, and they have a pretty prominent Simple Truth brand for things like that. And I was surprised that I didn't see anything that was Simple Truth branded that was a meat replacement product.
Nope, it's all name brand, which means it's kind of expensive.
Yeah, it
Another
probably is.
probably more obvious
Didn't
one.
say number 6.
Oops. Number 6. Another probably obvious one. The first thing that we did when we got to the US was we picked up our rental car. You really can't get around
Yeah.
the US without a car. I mean, you probably could if you lived in one of the larger cities, but in Cincinnati, there's only buses and then one route of a streetcar. The services there are really more aimed at getting people around downtown and then getting them to downtown.
Let's just start by going through what the commute looks like from the airport in Cincinnati to where we stayed on our trip, which was Michelle's mom's house. It's about an hour of a drive, so 45 minutes to an hour, somewhere around that. But if you look at how to get there from public transit,
3 hours
it would
and a
take 3.5
half.
hours, and it would require
Jesus.
3 bus transfers. And even if you did the bus transfers, I mean, you still have a 22-minute walk at the end of it. It's not
Ooh.
terrible, but like it's a 45-minute drive versus a 3.5 hour series of buses.
Yeah, that commute is long, and that's the only issue I sometimes have with public transportation is like if you have to switch, from bus to a tram or bus to a train once or multiple times, and you miss the next one. You get to from a bus to a train and you miss the train. You have to wait for the next one. It's like in half an hour or so, or maybe in the weekend it's even longer. It can be in an hour if they don't drive a lot. So if they don't often come around, if they don't come around often. So I mean, that's not great. So ideally, it would be as it is in London, for example, at least like the trams there, the metro there. You can take it and you have to wait for a couple of minutes, 2, 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, but then you have your metro and you're good to go. That's how it should be like everywhere. If you want more people to make use of public transportation, then make it good.
Oh my gosh.
Not great. Now, I think this might be the most ridiculous one. This is how to get from the Starbucks that's close to my mom's house to my mom's house. Now, it's a 5 minute drive, or a 57-minute walk, or an 18-minute bike ride. And you might be
What?
looking at this
How?
and being like, oh, well, an 18-minute bike ride, that's not so bad. However,
Hmm.
I don't know how these walking directions even exist, because if you go on Street View and you go right here to this bridge,
Yeah.
you can
It's
see that no one's going
it's
to
not
walk
easy
on
to walk
this.
on. Yeah.
It's a shoulder, and there's a no walking sign even at the
Oh.
intersection over here that says that you can't walk on this bridge.
Mm.
It's not something that you would want to look at this. You wouldn't want to bike on, you wouldn't want to walk on this, certainly. This is like a
No.
50-mile-an-hour road.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's why we're showing you these pictures and we didn't
Mm-hmm.
actually attempt this when we were home because we might be dead.
Well, it's
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you want to go and bike there, you have these small spaces at the side, left and right, these small lanes that you probably maybe could use as a biking lane, but I don't think it's safe if cars are driving by at 50 miles per hour, right? And here in Belgium and the Netherlands, we have much more, I guess, like secondary roads where you have biking lanes and walking paths and things like that. Yeah.
says not to it.
Yeah.
There's literally a no walking sign on this
Mm.
street. I don't know why Google's telling me to do it, but it's not recommended. Do you remember how much gas we used on that trip?
Like 2 full tanks of gas.
My mom lives on like the northeast side of Cincinnati. Her mom lives on the northwest side of Cincinnati. And we had dinner with friends. And of course, they were close to the city of Cincinnati. So there was a lot of driving and it took up a lot of our time. And honestly, my butt kind of hurt after the end of that trip.
Every
Yeah.
single drive was a minimum of 30 minutes.
It must have been really boring for you because, at least for me, I was driving.
Yeah, I didn't drive at all. I was like gung ho in the beginning. I was like, I'm going to drive. And then we got into it and I was like, I'm not driving it.
Yeah, driving sucks.
Number 5. People working in service jobs in the US are so dang friendly. Or maybe another way to say this is that people in the US love small talk. Of course,
Oh.
that's not to say people in the Netherlands aren't friendly. It's just that people in the US are generally so talkative. And we knew that going in, but people were still just a lot friendlier than we were expecting. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Well, it's not. I don't think it's about friendliness necessarily. It's like if you go to a restaurant or like a bar or something like that in the Netherlands and in Belgium as well. To be honest with you, um, we don't do that small talk thing as much because they're just doing their jobs. They're not your friends. They're just doing their jobs. They provide you with a service, and of course, some of those people will be extrovert, of course, and they will attempt like small talk. Why not? But yeah, it's not common here because they're just doing their job. They don't want to make friends necessarily. It could be the case, but yeah, they're just doing their job. That's it.
Anyway, this started immediately. The morning after we arrived, we got up and we went to breakfast at, ironically, this place in Cincinnati called Taste of Belgium. And the server was so friendly, and she ended up telling us about how her family actually had some Dutch heritage. And when we were leaving, we cracked jokes with the Delta check-in agent, and the lady inside the airport store asked us where we were going and why we were flying to Paris. And I just felt like we rarely have these types of interactions with service workers here in the Netherlands.
Our A2 level Dutch and accents may also play a part here. Well, maybe, but it just like it's not a thing here. Yeah, not really.
And I don't think that's necessarily a good or a bad thing. It's just different.
It's just
Number
different.
4,
Yeah.
I was shocked by how out of control tipping has become.
Ooh.
It's common
Yeah.
knowledge that tipping is sort of common in the United States, especially for people like your wait staff, your hairstylist, or when you get food delivered. But in the past few years, it seems like tipping's really gotten out of control. Contrast that with the Netherlands, or really most countries where tipping is extremely uncommon. You do see it pop up occasionally, especially in like touristy areas, but it's never really expected. And in our experience, it's not really frequently done. The only time I can really think of even being prompted to tip here in the Netherlands is when we occasionally take an Uber or if we get food delivered. And in that case, the
Yeah.
amount is significantly lower, usually somewhere between 5 and 15%, whereas in the United States, the expectation is almost always 20% minimum. And in some cases, the prompt that shows the tip values after you complete your transaction even shows you a lot higher
Yes,
percentages.
sometimes I've heard
Yeah.
they start at 20%.
Yeah.
And then it's like 22, 25.
Yeah,
30? Yeah,
Crazy.
30. Yeah.
At our favorite restaurant, Borough East Salvia, a dinner with 2 entrees, a glass of wine, and an appetizer cost somewhere around 50 euros. And an equivalent meal that we had in Cincinnati cost us around $80 with tip, which is
Ooh.
almost double. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, I believe that these servers should get paid a fair wage, and tipping is part
Sure.
of that because they don't get paid normal minimum wage in the US. They get paid something ridiculously low.
Yeah, it's like $2.30
yeah,
an
like
hour.
tipping is a
In Ohio, it's actually 5.25 an hour for tipped employees versus 10.45 per hour normally. 5.25 for tipped. So if you don't tip them, it's even lower, which is ridiculous. And that's like the thing here in Belgium and the Netherlands. It's already like included. It's like already calculated into the prices for to pay the waiting staff and everyone else who's working there, a decent wage. And apparently that's not the case in US, which is tragic.
component of their pay, but that's not right. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm complaining about the prices at restaurants or if I'm complaining about tipping culture, but something needs to change.
Yeah, it's for sure. Because actually, if you tip here in Belgium or the Netherlands or something like that, if you tip here for a food delivery, Uber, or even in a restaurant, sometimes happens as well. If you really liked it and you like the service, we tip as well because it was really good and we had a good time. For like 10 percentage or something like that. That's actually a real bonus at that point. Whereas if you give it in the US, you kind of have to because otherwise these people aren't able to pay to live. You know.
Number 3. Speaking of restaurants, we forgot about one more thing that's a difference with service. In the Netherlands, once you've ordered your food and drinks, you've essentially finished your transaction with the waitstaff. I mean,
Well,
of course, they bring you your
yeah,
food and drinks, but if you want to get something else, or once you're ready to pay the bill, you have to call them back over. In the US, the waitstaff is
yeah,
constantly checking on you. And when they see that you're done eating, they swoop in, take your stuff, and hand you the check. It is friendlier service in some ways since you don't have that awkward hand wavy thing that you have to do to get the attention of the waitstaff here in the Netherlands.
Make eye contact.
Yes, exactly. But it's also very much like a get in, get out type of thing. I'm not really sure which one that I prefer. What do y'all think?
What I think is it's not necessarily friendlier because when I speak about myself, but I think for most people living in Belgium, the Netherlands, maybe even Europe, I would be annoyed if someone from the waiting staff would be coming to my table every 5 or 10 minutes or so or whatever and asking like, oh, is everything okay? Do you need anything else? Yada yada yada. If they ask it once, it's fine, but if they ask every 10 minutes, it would be annoying. It would be yeah, we're eating, we're talking with friends or family or something like that. We're having a good time, and you're disturbing us. That's what I said before. They're not friends. They're not. Yeah, they're just providing you with a service, and that's it basically. So yeah, and if you need them, you will call them, sure. But that's how it works. That's what we're used to.
Let us know in the comments.
It was really strange how when we were at Taste of Belgium, we were there for maybe like 30 minutes. And I think the waitress outside of our like banter with her probably asked us if we wanted more coffee like 3 times.
Yeah, and I did.
Yeah, he wanted it all 3 times.
That's
But
true.
it was different.
But that's how we got to know her.
Yeah. Number 2.
But that's not what we want here, most of the time. Sometimes, yeah, but most times, like, we don't want to get to know each other really. We don't really care about that.
Two. So, obviously, on this trip, we didn't experience the air conditioning that's so common in the US. It was December and it was cold. In Ohio, we generally have cold, sometimes snowy winters and very humid summers. However, we did experience central heating, which is a hot, dry air that blows through vents from a furnace instead of it coming from radiators or up from floors, which is generally what we see or feel here in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
I feel like we have to mention this one, but the bigger shock to me was the lack of fresh air. In the Netherlands, ventilation is just really common here. Either there's like always a
Yeah.
window cracked, there's vents actually in your windows, or in fancier homes, there's some sort of centralized ventilation system. In the US, it's all done by your central heating and air conditioning, and it does pull in air from the outside, but man, it just feels really different. In the Netherlands, it kind of feels like we always have a window open, which is really
Mm.
nice.
I actually really, really felt this one. It was really dry in your mom's house.
Yeah.
You know, no hate. You know, it was a great
But
place to stay. It was very comfortable, but I just
but
don't think I fully appreciated how much we can manage the humidity levels in our homes here just by opening a vent or by opening a window for a period of time. They are, I mean, I don't even think we were staying in our basement. There was no window to open.
Nope, we couldn't open a window if
So
we
it was just
wanted
all
to.
dry air.
Yeah.
We had to bring in a humidifier.
well, that's what we do in Belgium as well. Like you just open a window and you get like natural air circulation instead of needing airco or something like that. And even in winter, of course, in winter it's colder, but we will even then most people will open a window just to have some fresh air, coming in. So yeah.
Number one, here's one that we experienced as we were planning to leave and for the entire time that we were there. We were terrified of having to use the US healthcare system. In the Netherlands, our healthcare plan here will cover the cost of emergency healthcare that we need when we're traveling. However, it's only up to the cost of an equivalent service in the Netherlands. And like I mentioned in our
Ooh,
vlog about buying our
yeah.
bikes in the Netherlands, I broke my hip on a bike in 2013.
Ooh,
And at the time, I was actually covered by my employer's healthcare plan. I remember receiving the bills,
that's
which
good. Yeah.
literally came for months after I left the hospital. And I swear I don't have the statements anymore, but one of them was for well over $60,000. That was just for one of
Ooh,
them. That was the
Jesus.
pre-insurance amount, which is still absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
That's basically what I would be paying if I was uninsured in the United States right now. I don't have American healthcare insurance. It would just be $60,000 minus the equivalent urgent healthcare service in the Netherlands, which would probably still be quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
That would also be the same price for one of the people that are underinsured or uninsured in the United States, people who just can't afford their health insurance premiums. And by the way, as a self employed individual here in the Netherlands, the amount of money that I pay for my healthcare here is equivalent to what I was paying in the United States as my share of the healthcare plan through my employer. But the
Mm.
deductible in the United States was
Yeah.
$2,000 or more, whereas here in the Netherlands, it's like 385 euros. So that's how I ended up paying over $2,000 when I broke my hip. So yeah, that's something that really weighs on you when you're traveling back to the United States. And in the
It's
end, we
true.
decided not to get supplemental insurance for the trip, but honestly, that was a really tough decision for us.
Mm.
So, no, we're not moving back to the US anytime soon. We'll stay in the Netherlands
Aha.
as long as the Netherlands will have us.
Yeah, like healthcare is really bad in USA, especially now with the Trump Elon situation. Healthcare is really, really well, not healthcare, but like the payment structure and regulations, I think are really, really bad.
We post new videos every week, so if you want to see videos of us exploring the Netherlands, be sure to subscribe. That tells YouTube to get our videos from us to you. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all next week.
So, done.
Till then means see you then, basically. Yeah, I think it's a great overview of some cultural differences for sure, like the tipping, the service, which is different, the roads and driving and things like that. It was an interesting video for sure. So yeah, if you like this, my reaction to this video, leave a like and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I will drop a new video every weekend. Similar reaction video to differences, cultural differences, or anything cultural related. So thanks again for watching. See you in the next one. Bye bye.